My name is Joyce Mulila Mitti. By training, I'm a plant breeder. I did genetics and plant breeding for my PhD. My first degree is in agriculture. My master's is in agronomy. So my master's and PhD I studied in the US, and that's where I really developed an interest in what career I would like to do. So I really got an interest in ensuring that I contribute to agriculture development. And so when I came back from my studies in the US, I was actually at the University of Southern Illinois in Carbondale. So when I came back and I joined the government, my intention was to really contribute to the development of agriculture in Zambia. So I worked in the government system. After I returned for like 7 years, I was a team leader of the research that dealt with improving legumes, the production of legumes in Zambia. So legumes, the major one, the groundnuts, beans, cowpeas, soybeans as well. Okay. So I was fortunate to work on a big project that was supported by FAO, which didn't look just at the productivity, but it was also looking at the development of different products from these key legumes, and also having a value chain approach where you look at from the garden to the fork, to the table. So it was looking at how you also develop markets, markets for these crops so that farmers can make good money, but also how you improve the demand and also the utilization so that, people are able to get this in a sustainable way. From that work, I think something very significant that happened in Zambia is the fact that soybean, which is not even a traditional crop or indigenous, has become such a big crop in Zambia, and you find a lot of products in the shops, and you find that people actually started to eat soybeans, and yet it wasn't even one of the key traditional crops. Basically, what happened was the fact that the private sector got involved in processing soybean and producing different crops. So that model has been used quite a lot in promoting different crops to make sure that, crops that are produced, there's a market, there's private sector interest, that people can find the products which meet their different needs. Okay. So that, that work really inspired me to be interested in development, which didn't only focus on just the production, but looking at ensuring that when you produce something, it can go on a market, you can have private sector, you can have, enterprises developed, and you can contribute to nutrition, and you can contribute to various products that become marketable, not only in Zambia, but can also be exported. Yeah. Currently, what I'm doing is I'm a private consultant. I'm a freelance consultant. And I know I went into a bit of detail of how I started, but later on, after I left the country, after working on that project, I went to Zimbabwe and I worked for FAO. I worked for the Food and Agriculture Organization. But even before that, I'd worked for an NGO. Okay, so in the FAO, where I retired in 2018, end of 2018, I covered a lot of other development issues. Okay, and I was employed at FAO to provide technical support to countries in Southern Africa. I was working for the Southern Africa region. I was supporting production and protection of crops. And that led me to have a lot of interest in issues to do with crop protection, or what is known as plant health, issues of ensuring that plants are produced not only adequately, but they don't also have pests, they don't have diseases, and that when we are marketing agricultural products, especially of crops, we are also not transporting pests and diseases to other areas. Okay? So I got a lot of interest in plant health. So when I retired, most of my consultancy work since 2019 has been in the area of plant health issues, to the extent that I got even hired by the African Union to develop the plant health strategy for Africa. So this is the strategy that has got interventions on what are the key areas that Africa needs to address in issues of plant health, so that whatever we produce is safe and that Africa can be able to market within the African continent, but also even outside. So that plant health strategy document, which I developed for the AU, is one of the key documents which is being used in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Okay. So yeah, so as you can see, I started by talking about being a plant breeder. Then I talked about working along the value chain. Then I talked about this specialization in plant health issues, where I'm looking at how can Africa produce healthy, but also be able to trade, internationally, quality products from the agricultural sector. I wanted to say that the other area that I'm working on as a consultant is also contributing to development of interventions that address the issue of climate change, what is called climate smart agriculture. So that's one of the areas that I also provide consultancy and technical support towards strengthening capacities of the national systems to be able to address challenges of climate change. I think the key issues in agriculture at the moment, which are requiring attention, is first and foremost the challenges that have been brought about by climate change, because it has become very difficult to predict whether you are going to have excess rain, or there won't be enough rain, or the temperatures are going to be too high. Because with the climate change has also brought up the problem of pests and diseases, which sometimes, just get out of hand. And, especially getting new pests, okay? So really, the climate smart agriculture, is a very important intervention, and it's looking at how can we prevent the effects of climate change? How do we prepare ourselves adequately? So basically, that's one of the things. And you find that in areas where especially droughts are common, there's a lot of, introduction of irrigation. And now, because of also the issues of high cost of energy, there's a lot of use of solar power, solar power to reduce on the cost of irrigation. So those are mostly some of the changes which are going on. So when you look at the three pillars of climate smart agriculture, it's you want to raise production, but you want to make it efficient. So you want to produce more for less. So you want to have more efficient use of the inputs. So you want a better efficient use of your water, a better efficient use of your fertilizers, and also even seed. You want to ensure that farmers are not spending too much. Secondly, you also want to look at mitigation. How do you mitigate? And this mitigation is where we are talking about, for instance, use of solar power, so that you are not also contributing too much to greenhouse emissions. Okay. Then there's also what we call adaptation, where you are trying to grow crops that do well in certain areas. You don't want to put crops in areas that are not very good for those crops. So you try to ensure that you take cognizant of the fact that some crops are better in some areas than others. So the big agenda in agriculture currently, the trend is to see how do we make agriculture produce better under this, the climate change scenario. So that's a major area. But you already, as you even said, the contribution to the agriculture, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Markets, making sure that there's a movement, safe movement, is extremely important. For Africa, it's a big agenda, How do we ensure that we are trading adequately? How do we ensure that what we are trading is safe, and that we don't get, situation of where, a country sends, products, and then the products don't make it to the market, So you want to reduce such occurrences. And then I think a very important aspect, which is also a key goal on the Sustainable Development Goals, is also how nutritious is the food. It's no use producing a lot of food when it's not nutritious. So then the nutrition is also important, because we want to contribute to better nutrition, So the quality, it's not just the quantity. The quality, not only safety, but nutrition aspects. So nutrition is receiving a lot of attention. Right now, as I'm actually in Eswatini, I'm on a consultancy of a project that looks at improving the conservation and use of traditional vegetables. Okay? Traditional vegetables have not received much attention in the agriculture agenda. However, we are seeing that when we look at nutrition, vegetables usually have high vitamins, high minerals, compared to many other food groups. And basically here we are talking about the indigenous vegetables. We are not talking about cabbage, we're not talking about carrots, We are talking about cowpea leaves, we are talking about pumpkin leaves, we are talking about blackjack, And these are some of the crops which actually go in the wild, but now they are being promoted to be actually deliberately planted the way you would plant your cabbage or the way you plant your maize. Okay, so really it's climate change, it's safe movement, meeting the international standards for trade, and also nutrition. So those are some of the big issues on the agenda, and also including inclusiveness, to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind. So where we talk about gender, but we also talk about youth and those who are differently abled, to ensure that they also participate in the agricultural sector adequately. Question. I've actually been talking about that myself. If really, when I chose to do agriculture, it wasn't really like the passion. I'll be very honest with you that my father pushed me to study sciences. So when I went to the university, I was really there to please my father because he really pushed me. But then when the time came to choose which sector to join, I know my father would have wanted me to be a medical doctor. But I had a lot of problems, even, when we would dissect the mice, I was really, I didn't want to the sight of blood. I just didn't like that. Then I didn't want to be a teacher because I could have also done education in sciences. So it's like, agriculture. And during that time, there were very few students who were choosing agriculture. So it's like to get into agriculture, there was even no issue. So I chose to go into agriculture. But I don't have regrets. In actual fact, what I say that if I were to go back to school, especially at master's and PhD level, maybe what I would have done is nutrition. I have a lot of passion for nutrition, but you know what? Agriculture is related to nutrition. You can actually not get good nutrition if your agriculture is not okay. And as I'm telling you right now here in Swaziland, where I am, Eswatini rather, it's really nutrition, that's the big issue. So I have a lot of passion for nutrition. I have a passion for good diets. So really, what I would have done different for masters, I would have probably gone to do nutrition or do something or dietitian. But however, I do get quite a bit of contribution to that by virtue of being on projects that are more holistic in approach. They are not just producing. So I thank God actually that I did agriculture, because then you start thinking about nutrition before the food is produced, not when it's already produced. So I don't have regrets, and because of the nature of the projects which I tend to find myself in, I find that I need to read quite a bit in nutrition. So yes, yeah, that's what I would say. I don't have much regrets. I thank God I actually studied agriculture, and it has given me a broader view of nutrition. I think it's important to have high self-esteem and not to be discouraged just because you are, female. Yeah, it's very important. And it's also important not to be intimidated in the workplace where you have men who might have this feeling like, women cannot succeed. I know that in a lot of cases, as a woman, you have to work twice as hard to be recognized. And for me, I feel it's worth it. Okay? I think it's worth it because it gives you the confidence to be able to stand up there and show what you know. The other advice is work outside the box. Don't be limited to an area, And what I'm trying to say is, as I even when I did my introduction, I'm a plant breeder. But I work a lot with people who are in the area of plant protection who cannot believe that I'm a geneticist and plant breeder. Some people think that I must be a crop protection person, but it's because I read a lot. I read a lot. Most of what I've learned is not what I learned from school. It's just getting the extra, making the extra effort to read about what is current. Even like I told you about the plant health strategy, I didn't go to school to learn how to write strategies, but I got interested and ensured that I learn what does it take to do a strategy. So basically what I'm saying is push yourself. Don't be discouraged just because you are female, because you can excel. Excellence is about hard working. It's about, not being boxed into. It's really looking out what's happening, being interested in the new trends. Yeah? One of the things like, what COVID brought about, I didn't go to school to learn how to use all these platforms, including what we are using now. So invest in learning something, because otherwise I would have told you, oh, look, come on, Margaret, forget it. For me, maybe I can just do a PowerPoint presentation. But yeah, so that's the advice I would give. Don't limit yourself. Whatever opportunities God provides, go for them and work hard and show integrity as you work. Show integrity. Yeah, that's what I would like to say. Take the opportunities as they come and read widely. Don't limit yourself. Because, as a consultant, what I've found is you succeed. The more you know of other areas outside of your specialty, the easier things become. Okay? Can you imagine if I didn't know how to use the computer, I didn't know, how would I write my technical reports? So don't limit yourself. Whatever opportunities comes to learn, you learn, and yeah, that's what I would say.